How we doing? How we doing? Episode 16 of Trending Down here. Got myself, Ethersole, and Bender. Want to remind everyone we got the YouTube flowing now. So if you digest your podcasts over there, or even if you don't, go hit it up, like, subscribe, show some love, get the algorithms really pumping. It helps us out. Before we kind of hop into things, quick little rundown of what we're going to be talking about today. So talk about price action, talk about Elon, Twitter. We're going to talk about the most recent BAYC merch. Obviously got to drop into Gobblers and all the drama that's been surrounding that. And then of course, Twitter topics. We got a ton of Twitter topics passed from you guys that we're super stoked to dive into. So let's run it. What's up, buddy?
Not much, man. It's been an eventful few days, to say the least.
It's nice to kind of get some NFT hype in the markets.
Yeah, especially in a time when no one really thought we'd survive this long. We kind of all said, hey, maybe JPEGs are done when the bull ends.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'd say price in the market, price action has been somewhat of a lull. It's just been kind of chilling. Obviously, all the dog coins went crazy over the weekend. Had a nice little pump on ETH, but we're just kind of like chilling for now. Got some big Fed stuff tomorrow when we drop this episode, so I'm sure we'll get some action.
Yeah, we kind of consolidated in that 1550 range, which feels a lot better than that 1280, 1300 range.
I know. Can you imagine when we break 2K ETH? It's going to feel like we're insanely rich again.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. It's that anchor number for me. It's the 1.5 as opposed to the 1.2.
Yep. Big difference.
Yeah, it just feels wildly different. And then when you see, like, I think I saw 1600 ETH at one point and started getting a little excited, like, ooh, we're getting back up there now, huh? That 6 popped up.
I just like 2K for easy math. Okay, so if we could just pump it around there so that I can, do the math in my head real quick, that'd be great.
Yeah, anything between 15 and 2, I'm guessing. It's a wild guess. Same with 15 and 1. I'm like, it's in this range.
I'm rounding up.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so yesterday was Halloween. Before we dive too crazy into the other stuff, what's your favorite candy?
Oh man, Reese's peanut butter cups, no question. Okay. What's yours?
That's mine too. So we can move on pretty quick because I mean, you can't top that.
No, you can't. And if you try to, you're simply wrong.
Oh, like no questions asked. You're moving on to the next, basically. Honestly, unsubscribe, but also don't.
Next favorite's Kit Kat though. If we are going number 2.
I mean, I love Kit Kats too. So like literally we're just on the same page vibing right now. We didn't talk about this beforehand, not even in the agenda. So there you go. That's just like unfiltered content for come right to your ears right there.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
So, okay. Finally have BAYC dropping some merch. How do you feel about it?
This is the only drop I like, if I'm being completely honest. A lot of their stuff has felt like it belongs in a Spencer's or a Hot Topic. And I haven't been a fan of it. Maybe one piece in the whole collection of merch that they've come out with, I'll kind of vibe with. But this one feels good. And I think a lot of it is because of Macbeth and the dudes that are involved there and their art style, which really speaks to me.
Yeah, I mean, okay. The first couple drops were awesome, I thought. And then the like notorious one was like the most recent one, I want to say. Not the one that's out right now, but like the Monster Energy vibes.
Yeah, I could not deal with that one. That's the one that has burned me.
And I got 1 or 2 pieces from there that were like pretty low key. But the quality just wasn't there for me. So I was a little skeptical going into this most recent debut. But I mean, I'm thinking about it.
I am too. I've had the website open since the day they announced it, and I've just been looking at it at least once a day, which kind of tells myself I'm a little hesitant. And I think you're probably in the same boat because it's November 1st and you haven't pulled the trigger yet either.
No, and it's funny because I think that's just like also a bear market effect. Being do I need it? I mean, bull market, it's like, let me toss a couple grand at some merch, whatever. Now it's just like, I don't know if I really need it. Even if I do like it, like, I don't know. How much am I going to wear it?
Right.
That whole thing.
I'll be honest, I haven't worn any of the merch. I've worn the hat from the first drop a handful of times.
I feel like some of this merch is worth copping just for the resale value because there is a market on eBay for it.
Is there actually? People are buying it?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Like the basketball that I got, I think we had to buy it for $100 or $200. They're selling at one point they were selling for like $1,000 to $5,000.
No.
And that was probably like peak bull market euphoria when collector's items were just going nuts everywhere, like even baseball and basketball cards.
Yeah, I sold that basketball for like 0.2 ETH and never looked back.
Oh yeah, because you could sell the NFT, but
Right.
then you also got a physical, right?
Yeah, I think you had to have the NFT to get the physical.
That's right.
You had to use it
That's
to
right.
claim it or something.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, that's a W.
Oh, absolutely. The one merch I did like that you pointed out was the 2022 Ape Fest. I think their bubble lettering
Oh yeah.
in the way they pushed that logo together to kind of be more street art graffiti was really cool.
Yep. I was actually I forgot about that. I was a big fan of that. So
were you in with the Adidas BAYC G Money Pixel Vault launch?
I want to say I was.
If you had that NFT and you went through their claim period, I think you got to claim like an orange beanie, a yellow highlighter jumpsuit, and then a black Adidas Bored Ape sweatshirt. The only thing that's shown up to my place so far is a sweatshirt, but the quality on that is immaculate. I was amazed with it.
I feel like if you're going to be in the NFT scene and doing these merch drops, the number one thing you got to nail is quality.
Oh yeah, you'll get ripped apart if not.
Like it's not that hard to make something look decent or kind of cool or just like, street art vibes or whatever. But if the quality's not there, it's just a travesty.
Oh yeah. So I'm searching through eBay right now for Bored Ape stuff.
Oh boy.
It's hit and miss. If you're going to buy it simply to resell, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, if you're literally sniping these off eBay, you are full blown to Gen. Unless you want to wear it.
Yeah, you're not sniping these to snipe. You're the only bidder to simply get it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're basically, if you're doing that, you are counting on them like absolutely going crazy and then reselling that 5 years from now at like the next peak,
right?
For crazy money.
What I will say though is the art prints they have in this current drop, the McBest, the Dudes drop, are awesome.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why I kind of was drawn to it in the first place. But we'll see if I end up pulling trigger. Maybe on the next episode we can go back and kind of rehash if we did or not.
That sounds great.
So outside of that, I mean, again, like we kind of touched on in the beginning, but the NFT scene got some juice put back into it with gobblers.
Oh yeah, man, that was wild. That was what everyone was talking about and waiting for. It's been gobblers, Ether, and I had a few others I was looking at, and I don't even remember their names anymore, so they must have just fallen off in my head. This is one of the big ones everyone was waiting for.
I mean, so Art Gobblers is an NFT project put out by Paradigm. They're just a bunch of chads in the space that, are just really good at math and investing. They made their own sort of like NFT game. And so this Art Gobblers creation experiment, whatever you want to call it, is going to be ongoing for 10 years. There's a bunch of mechanics in it with different tokens and stuff. Definitely suggest you go look at it, get a little deeper into the weeds. We're probably just going to talk about the drama stuff here, but cool game. We'll see how it works out. But I had never seen that type of price action on launch. I mean, there was no dip. It was, people were just like buying up supply nonstop.
Yeah, I was shocked. You and I talked about what they might open at. I talked with a lot of other people trying to figure out, hey, what's your strategy? See if I could understand the market a bit more. And there wasn't a single person that thought they would open up above 5 ETH.
Right. Everyone missed the mark on this.
Yeah, they opened at 14, 15.
Yep.
I mean, you and I were in a voice call sitting there just watching everything play out, saying like, what is going on?
Yeah. And I will say, it was like Blur, you could almost watch it like it was a sporting event. I mean, I use that lightly, but it was a ton of fun to watch there because of how fast their whole engine loads. I mean, you could see offers and buys and sells in real time, no refreshing needed. You could kind of see where things were going. It went, opened up at 15, dropped down to close to 12. I mean, it's just all over the map, but I think it's still holding around 13, which is just wild.
After the reveal, yeah, which was our next moment of this might be the entry point, and then it didn't dip, and we said, okay, well, maybe not.
I know, yeah. The game plan was if there was a mint day dip, we would we would maybe buy that. And then we were talking, okay, that didn't happen. Back to the drawing board. Well, maybe there's going to be a reveal dip because these gobblers come with multipliers on how much of a certain token they can produce. And it was like, okay, maybe people will put a premium on some of the ones that produce it faster, which I think they did, but there was definitely no reveal dip. If anything, I think it went up.
No, you're right. Yeah. And I think that's where we messed up. I think we had a pivotal mistake where we said exactly what you just reiterated of the reveal dip. And we didn't stop to think about how few were listed and how many people were trying to make a DAOs for this or play this game and would be in there waiting to snipe the high multiplier gobblers that excrete the most goo. It's a technical term. That's not it.
It's funny to talk about.
It is. But that's what we messed up. Mm-hmm. And the minute that dawned on us maybe an hour ago, it was like, oh yeah, that we should have seen this coming. We should have known they would jump at the reveal.
Yep. Yeah. We definitely misplayed that.
That's what happens though. It's all about getting better, right? You got to identify where you messed up.
And also I think it's fair to kind of call out that it was the wise move to not like FOMO into this. And I still learned a lot just by watching the price action and what happened, right? You don't always have to be a part of it to actually kind of take something away from it.
Yeah, spot on. It was a risk-free learning experience.
Yeah, and it was a ton of fun. Like I said, we hopped in voice chat with a couple other people, and it was just like trying to predict where it was going to go. You could see that flippers were starting to lose money, like again, that was all kind of powered by Blur. And like shout out Blur, because if you're trying to sponsor the podcast, hit us up.
Oh yeah. It's been wild actually to watch the first big hype quote unquote drop with Blur involved now, because you can look at Blur, you can look at OpenSea, and even right now there's a 1.7 ETH difference on Blur than there is OpenSea.
I mean, who's arbing that right now? You got to figure there's someone trying to do that.
Oh, absolutely. But then if you look at the OpenSea activity page, you might be getting one sale every 6 minutes.
That's crazy.
But if you look at Blur, there in the last 6 minutes, there's been 12. So they're really taking market share there, which is, I didn't expect it this fast.
No, and when the token comes out and all of a sudden there's incentives around using the platform more, it's just going to be, it's going to be interesting to watch. And then this price discrepancy between marketplaces is just so interesting to me. Like obviously that's going to get arbed out over time and it's going to go away. But the fact that it was so apparent today, I was kind of surprised.
I was too. I think it bodes well.
Yeah.
Anything that has a good competitor is you have to push yourself to be better. And there's been so many times when we look at OpenSea and we're saying, this shouldn't be acceptable. We can't do this, but no one's really stepped up to compete with them until it seems like Blur now. Yeah.
And another thing is like that education pays, right? Being aware of these marketplaces. If you weren't aware of Blur today, you literally lost out on potential 3 to 4 ETH just by buying a floor art gobbler because
right.
Yeah, you didn't know Blur existed. It's like that to me, the opportunity cost there is crazy. And so just listen to Trending Down. We got you.
Absolutely. I think let's dig into Blur for a second too. The second airdrop is interesting where they say you need to have 3 sweeps, but they don't tell you the ETH amount those sweeps need to be or the amount of NFTs that constitutes a sweep, which is interesting. So you could use their sweeping function and just buy a single NFT. And maybe that gets you into their next airdrop better. But I've seen some people saying that you can double dip now on airdrops and use the SudoSwap's XMON NFT that allegedly gets you into the SudoSwap airdrop. Buy that and then relist it on Blur to get into both for the same price. And if you resell it on Blur, you may get into SudoSwap still, and you're pushing Ethereum volume through your Blur account.
Whoa, that's serious alpha. Okay, so there's an XMON NFT, because I know there was XMON token, and they're going to release, or SudoSwap's already out, but they're going to release Sudo, the token, for XMON holders.
Right.
But now there's an NFT, and you're saying basically sweep that on Blur and then resell it, and then all of those could count towards an airdrop on both platforms.
This was one person's theory. Yeah.
Okay.
I would not say do it because I think each XMON is like 20 ETH. You're taking a huge risk. But
Oh, I
it
thought
was interesting.
I thought it was a token rather than an NFT.
They have this, I think they have an NFT to go with it now.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
I'm looking through it as we speak.
Yeah, let us know because I mean, you might as well kill two birds with one stone right there. But 20 ETH is definitely kind of a price tag I wouldn't even take a gamble with. But
No. Yeah, it's the creator of SudoSwap, 0x Bonds, has his own NFT or their own NFT that is called 0x Bonds.
got it.
And those are on-chain creatures, you might Picassos, Monets. It's hard to tell if these are. It looks like you know when you rub your eyes and then you close your eyes and you see those colors.
Yeah.
Looks like that.
Okay. Perfect. Oh yeah. I don't even. Okay. I'm looking at it right now. This doesn't make sense.
Mm.
You actually described it perfectly. So
Yeah,
if you're
it's
just
like
listening to us in the car or something, then you already know what's up.
Yes, the Blur airdrop, number 2 airdrop is very interesting because as we're seeing, they're getting a lot of traction here, and it's already solidified itself as a major player in the space. So you do want to be a part of that airdrop number 2.
No, I agree. I mean, I think there's kind of, I don't know how to say this without just fully saying it, but there's kind of an argument to be made that you could be bullish on the Blur token. I think, we obviously need to know the tokenomics, and I think we might have touched on this, but so any way to get more of that token via the airdrop and farming it and stuff ahead of time is smart.
Yes.
So
spot on.
Obviously we'll break down details further once we know more, but if this is a good platform that the heavy traders are going to be using, and let's be real, any exchange that has the heavy traders is where you want to be because that's where the volume is. And so, yeah, I mean, could make an argument for the token. I mean, that just jumps right into Paradigm Chads again. They made Blur, they made Art Gobblers, and they're crushing the scene right now.
Didn't they also do Parallel? Are they behind the Parallel cards as well?
I think they did.
They're all over.
Yeah, they're huge. I mean,
and that kind of bodes the question of, was it Paradigm or was it Justin Rowland, the creator of Rick and Morty, that really pushed Art Gobblers to what they became?
That's a good question because, is it the artist more or is it the sort of game design that they came up with? Because the tokenomics are definitely something they had their hand in.
You said there's a lot of DeFi people that got into Art Gobblers, right, for the tokenomics?
Yeah, that was the crazy part about this drop too, is that this had this had a lot of crossover with, normally it's just like, oh, this is all NFT degens and like, this is just capturing their market, or this is just capturing, crypto Twitter market for a certain NFT or something. This had both, mainly because of the tokenomics.
Which is sweet because we're a year into the top of Ethereum crumbling from 4,600. And there's been 20,000 Ethereum of volume through a single NFT project in the last 24 hours.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you would have never thought this would have happened.
No, not at all.
So it bodes well. The bear is actually coming along a lot better than I thought it would.
Yeah. Are you a buyer of Art Gobblers?
Oh man, at this price, no. I'm in the camp that we're still in a bear. And the last thing you want to do is take high risk plays that may or may not play out.
Yep.
And I think the floor right now is 12.5. I would call that a high risk play. That just doesn't appeal to me. If they drop lower and this token that they're creating pays out well, and I can see these things really surviving, I think I'd buy them. But right now, probably not.
Yeah.
You in the same boat, or where are you at?
I'm in the same boat. It's like, I obviously want to play the game because the tokenomics are fascinating, and it could have like Ponzi type level pumpage through the tokens, or through the through the token, the goo token.
Right.
It's so dumb, some of the stuff we talk about, by the way, if you like really take a step back, but it's where we're at. So this goo token that you like get daily, I mean, the supply is hyperinflationary, so over time it's going to get, or you would expect it to get more and more cheap, but then the more you hold it, the faster you make it. So there's just so many levels of game theory here that it would be fun to be able to like participate and play this. But I guess I'm just kind of going to watch from the sidelines because 12 and a half ETH is way over the budget right now for
Immensely.
taking swings like that. And if I was going to play, I don't want to have just one. Like I would want at least 5 and that ain't going to happen right now.
You want to be competitive in the concept of it.
Right. And I want it to have a good payoff, right? So in my head, taking a high risk bet like that, the reward has to be even greater, right? So it's like, I would rather have a 20% chance at $1 million and risk 50K than like 100% chance of, making 2x or something like that. I mean, like that, maybe not that exact example, but you get what I'm saying. Like I would rather take on that type of risk for an insane payout, but one art gobbler isn't going to like retire you.
Right.
You would need to have to throw a bag at this thing and maybe it goes 4 or 5x and that's cool. Obviously, like we all love that, but it's not your 100xer.
Right. And it never will be.
No, I don't think that's the point.
No.
But
I think if it was a lot lower, if we're in the 0.1 or 1 ETH range, oh yeah, I'm all in for this.
Oh, I would have bought as many as I could.
Without a doubt. Oh man.
Yeah, it's fun to think about. But you always kind of hammer this home is that there's definitely going to be other opportunities and probably with higher supplies. I mean, this started out with 2K that's available. And those like moonshots are what you get on a 10K collection. It all comes out, the supply releases, you get a massive reveal dump or whatever, whatever you expect the initial or most common mechanics to be. And then you stockpile, you buy the blood and it pays off, right?
Mm-hmm. Now we'll say all this, and in like 3 months, it'll be at a 16th floor, and we'll come back and say, "Okay, so episode 16."
So someone literally is gonna record, like have all the clips, and just be like,
okay,
"Look at these clowns."
I know. Should we hit the drama on this and what happened with the whole ecosystem at large?
We have to.
Yeah. Wow. So, quick rundown was you had art gobblers all over the timeline. You couldn't log into Twitter for the last 5 days without hearing about gobblers or seeing us Twitter spaces talking about them. And then it comes out that the mint goes live and every single person is watching this activity feed of saying, hey, where will these open at? What's my buy range? Can I get in? And they start seeing influencers selling these. And they're immediately saying, well, you've been talking about these for over a week and then you're immediately selling them. Like, why even talk about them? And the timeline went at each other's throats. There was no friendliness. You had every punch being thrown. It was pretty chaotic to watch. And then you had behind the scenes in Discord channels, people talking about it, like quiet groups saying, wow, look at this one, look at that one, lists being passed around of everyone that was involved. And man, like, I don't even know where to go from there besides, does it seem bad? Does it seem like something that was a little pump and dumpy? Where's your thoughts there?
It's so tricky here. It is such a tricky combo. The takes across the board are all over the map. You had people defending people's actions. You had other people, I would say the majority, rather upset that it's felt like a kind of a gated process to even get these gobblers. Like if you weren't on the whitelist and they open at 15 ETH and they really haven't dropped below that, you kind of, get rid of a whole bunch of people that can even participate. Right. So I'm kind of grateful that, we're sitting here even contemplating be able to get involved in this thing. Obviously we're passing, but still. And so, I think personally, I can't really fuck with the people that preach, that don't practice what they preach, I guess is what I'm saying. Where, an example of that is, people coming out being like, hey, like this whole influencer thing. And like, I would never do this, like pump and dump and like, or I get gifted something, like I'm here to, promote projects that I like and stick with them for the long haul. And then they get called out on the timeline for like selling within the first 2 minutes. It's like, but then on the flip side, if you have someone who doesn't do that, they don't, preach all this like rah shit of I'm going to hold projects forever. They're just like out here in the scene. Like what are you going to make them do? Like hold on to it? No, like I don't know. So it's a fine line of like, I just feel like anyone is welcome to do what they want. But if you're out here preaching one thing and doing another, then I see how you get backlash. Is a long-winded way to get to what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So I guess it's just more like, if you're going to put out content and shame others, then you better expect the heat if that's something you end up doing.
Right. I think the only thing there that gets a little tricky is when you, Function said it best in episode 2 or 3, which was there was a lack of responsibility for other people's actions or for people's own actions where I think he said that he would send a tweet and people would then buy NFTs off his tweet. And if the NFT price action goes up, they praise Function. If the price action goes down, they hate Function. And it's just a lack of personal responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I agree.
think hoping so high. Go on.
No, I was going to say to that point real quick is that if you come out and explain your stance and you're transparent, I think that is way better than anything else. I think it's just like, be honest in what you're doing. And if you have a big following, don't abuse it.
Right.
So,
and it's so tricky. It's so tricky. I don't think there's really a good answer there. I think you nailed it when you said if you use your platform to push something, you probably have an obligation to be involved a little longer than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But there's people out there that play tested the game on the test net and they got, I don't even know how many whitelist spots. But do those people have a responsibility to hold on to these? Because I only know of one person that did this, and I'm not going to out his name, but he's holding all of his. He wants to play the game again.
Yep.
But if you had an intricate part in actually testing and helping these people, and your gift from that is the whitelist spots, and you've never put it on your platform, I kind of feel like you're free to do what you wish with those.
Honestly, it's all a free market. Anyone can do what we wish. Even if you're not practicing what you preach, you can do what you want. But don't be like shocked when people are coming at you because of you practice, you're not practicing what you preach. Now, for like kind of what you're talking about, where someone who never talks about anything, yeah, it's free market. Do whatever you want. Like, you help them out. You were gifted whitelist for that reason. And then that's just what it is. If you are like salty about that, then I mean, we also like, there are people who are handed a golden or silver spoon here, but for the most part, everyone's been grinding to make connections and, kind of like expand their circle. So while I can, there's definitely a subset of people who are in this, insider thing who probably did get gifted whitelists and sold, and they're, they probably shouldn't have. But for the most part, I think you could do whatever you want. It's a free market. And, yeah, again, as long as you're not out here being like, I would never do this, and then you do that, then,
right.
You get what's coming to you in that case.
I think a big part of it may be the lack of transparency of how someone got there.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I'm kind of realizing that when I think more about the people that play tested, and I think there are some acknowledgments in the white paper when you read about the tokenomics. When you see those people, you're kind of like, oh, I know why they're in there. But then you see other people and you're kind of wondering, did you contribute to this project's X, Y, or Z? Or were you just given it to be given it? I think that's where like the hate starts to breed in people.
I agree. And let's be real. Like, I mean, when you talk about these type of things, you have to feel for the people who are sitting there and like, they just feel like they're catching L's over and over and over and being used as exit liquidity. And so finally it's like, hey, nah, like fuck that shit. I don't mess with that. And so there is something there to unpack and like feel for and want to change. But you gotta, it's not every situation is the same.
No. And I think that's what a lot of people miss is they forget that they were once exit liquidity. Like everyone in this space started out as the exit liquidity for somebody else. And I really think a lot of people forget that when they start getting these large platforms and have, 200,000 followers and feel like they can't do anything wrong, they forget where they came from.
Yeah.
And they stop caring about those people that are them essentially.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue.
I think that's the biggest issue I see with what has happened lately.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that take. That's probably a good way to like cap that one off because it just could be going down the rabbit hole forever. And it's a heated topic.
Yeah.
Rightfully so, though.
My plan will always stay the same of figure out how the influencers that get things just for having followings are going to play the next drop, the next coin, whatever it is, and say, how do I play it better? That's always
Right.
my outlook there is, if so-and-so has 20 of these things and I know they're going to sell them, how do I figure out how to sell them higher or first?
Exactly. I mean, you can't like, it's just an honest thing, right?
Absolutely.
So is what it is. Stoked to see gobblers out there. There's a bunch of DAOs spinning up, trying to capture market share of the game. And so, let's see how it all plays out. One thing before we actually go on the gobblers, off that topic, the DAOs, they're going to create their own token and you can buy an ownership. You and I have talked about this. I'm just going to come out and say it. I think it's a terrible idea to participate that way.
Oh yeah.
You're going to get rinsed.
Horrible. Yep.
Like owning fractions of this stuff is, and then like maybe not having a claim to it and all that type of stuff. I just wouldn't touch it, especially when they're taking fees and stuff on top. Like, do not get suckered into that type of stuff.
Yeah. I've always thought fractionalization of NFTs, the DAO strategy to try to win these games, is never a good strategy.
No, it's going to benefit whoever made the DAO, and then all of a sudden is like, oh hey, yeah, thanks. I have the main portion of the tokens anyway because I'm on the team, and so I built this thing. Like, it's not that technical to do. You just round up a bunch of ETH, create a token. Like they're not like reinventing the wheel here.
No, and what they accomplished too is a little kind of misconceived, where if these DAOs do create this legendary gobbler by getting 69 gobblers and bringing them together, that is incredibly illiquid. So I'm not sure you really get your money back out of that thing.
Exactly. Right. I mean, I don't see a way you do. Maybe those tokens catch a pump when everyone on the timeline is talking about how, they're earning $1 million a year in goo, even though it's a hyperinflationary token. But then if you are for some reason in those things, that's your exit.
Right. I will say this. I was big into Ether orcs when they minted, and they minted with a very similar concept where the first 2,000 were free and the next 3,000 were released on this time delayed strategy that came from using the tokens that your orcs created to then mint new orcs. And I saw a lot of different people try different strategies of form a DAO, do it by themselves, yada, yada, yada. All different theories came up. And the DAO strategy versus the single strategy was almost the identical outcome. And I kind of feel the same way for these gobblers.
Yeah. So think about it like that. If you're giving up anywhere from 5 to 20% fee to the DAO, then you're better off just doing it yourself and not giving up that 5 to 20% fee.
Oh, absolutely. But
or like, putting together some like friends, I guess, and doing your own DAO kind of between you guys and not having a fee.
So that's exactly what we did with Ether Orcs. Was we had I think there were 6 people that were all just trading the coin back and forth, trying to optimally create these orcs to make the most coins. And then we just evened everybody out at the end.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I did the math, and had I just done it by myself, I think I would have had the exact same outcome. It just would have been less fun.
Yeah, exactly. And what are we here for? I mean, obviously, if you're grinding and this is like your main thing, you're here to make some cash. But at the end of the day, you want to have some fun too.
Yeah. Let me be clear. If you're doing it with your friend, it'll be a ton of fun. If you're doing it with 14 random people through a smart contract, it will be so stressful.
Yeah. So anyway, just wanted to toss that warning out there because I did see a bunch of kind of whatever you want to call it, large people with large followings toss out that they're creating DAOs. And, I do know of a couple DAOs that are just friends and they're doing it internally. But the ones that are creating tokens and taking fees, it's just
that's opportunistic.
Exactly. So anyway, I mean, I think we should head on into some Twitter topics. We got a ton this week. And, I think that we both agree this would be cool to make it like a 50-50 part of the show where we talk about, what's been going on in the markets, NFTs, coins. If there's not much to talk about, then we move on into these Twitter topics even earlier. But this is the fun.
Absolutely. These are my favorite questions.
Yeah. So our producer kind of puts these together, and yeah, we have a producer now. Could you imagine?
Never thought we'd get here, honestly.
No, it's like before we dive in, it's been crazy, the growth.
Yeah. Yesterday was shocking. We were sending messages back and forth like, holy crap, like look at these metrics just taking off.
Yeah. And, it's fun to see people interact on Twitter and talk about the show. I know we say this a lot, but seriously, it means a ton. And, the liking, subscribing, commenting, it's like kind of like cringe when people say all that, but it really does help, which is, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, let's dive in here. You want to kick us off with the first question?
Yeah. So first question we've got, would love to hear your take on what sectors are going to be hot this next cycle and what projects have your attention most.
Interesting.
Do you read these questions beforehand?
No.
Yeah, neither.
So there's no prep here.
No.
Okay. Well,
good luck.
Yeah. What sectors are going to be hot this next cycle? Okay.
I liked fees. Your fee narrative was very strong.
Yeah. The DeFi fee narrative, and mainly because it just goes back to usage. Like, you're getting that much fees because people are actually using you. And what does the space need to further itself? Adoption. So I think that's a no-brainer as far as like DeFi and that type of stuff is concerned. I think there's another overarching sort of sector, which is GameFi. No one's really perfected that per se. It's been kind of like these hyperinflationary tokens. And I mean, we have another shot here with Art Gobblers. We'll see how that goes, but that's kind of more of a slow play. And so I'm interested to see some of the GameFi games that come out that people are playing like sort of daily and see how they can capitalize instead of these, in-game purchases. It's more of like tradables or something. So anyway, gonna keep an eye out there. And then, more about the NFTs. I think you're going to have a lot more like passes and alpha passes getting you access to certain things that you probably wouldn't normally. I could see a world where you even are having passes to get like seed rounds to certain things and access to those type of deal flows. Now, I mean, don't even get started on the like legality and frameworks there, but I could see how that could come to fruition. So yeah, I think that's kind of like the three off the top of my head.
I agree with all of them, honestly. I can't think of something you missed that I think could be good. Membership, probably a big one, especially if this narrative continues that the stronger your network, the stronger you are in this place. I just can't see how membership tokens don't take off.
We're seeing it almost every other week where like the gated access things. And then if you are part of these groups, sometimes they give out their spots and it pays for the membership 10 times over in some cases.
Right. I also think tooling will be huge.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I mean, just in the last year, we've seen tools explode. NFT nerds change the NFT game. Blur is doing it again.
Yep.
Anybody that has a good strategy for a tool that can improve the economy of the coins we're talking and the tokens, I think there's going to be a strong narrative for those and the passes that are required to use those.
Yep. And I would add one last thing on is probably the AI sector. And that's, it's obviously super hyped and probably gets blown out of proportion sometimes and maybe jumps itself in valuations. But there's some cool tools out there that are gaining a ton of traction that are open source and are building, kind of like the foundation for the future of AI, and actually producing stuff that's cool instead of hype that is like, oh, maybe one day this will do this. It's actually tangible results.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of I got nothing more.
I think it was a great answer. Okay, we've got 3 favorite crypto Twitter accounts you follow and why. Also, if you ever see the words CT on Twitter, it's crypto Twitter. That's one of the most common questions I see asked is, what is CT?
I'm surprised no one's asked us like, hey, can you run down the acronyms? Is that because there's like, did gens listen?
It's got to be, yeah. There's no way that isn't the case.
Or it's just people who are like, yeah, I'll listen to this podcast because they're like a friend or something. And then they're just like, yeah, I don't even understand half the shit that you guys are talking about. So they don't even know the acronyms.
I hope that's not the case.
Yeah, let's hope not. 3 favorite CT accounts you follow and why, huh?
That's a hard one.
Yeah, if you don't say Ethersole and Bender for 1 and 2, you're kind of just hanging us out to dry there. But on the real, I would say my favorite one right now is Gainsey.
Oh my gosh, because of his betting he's doing.
I've always thought this arc would cross over the sports betting and crypto Twitter because there is a sports betting Twitter and they're pretty degen with some of the stuff they do. I don't know if obviously there's some skill in it, if you're just, basically researching this stuff all day. Mm-hmm. But so yeah, I think Gainsey, I think Pentoshi for like kind of overall market And then maybe Kobe or GCR, but that's it's obviously more than 3.
I was gonna say Kobe is definitely one of mine. I think he's probably one of few people on crypto Twitter where he can tweet something and I almost never have a bad reaction to it. I'm just always like, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
But it's the small things with him for me where he always uses photos of people that vaguely look like him, which I find hilarious.
Oh my God. I love that. So he's always updating his profile pics of just randoms that kind of look like him.
Which I love because if you're someone new to the scene, you don't know who Kobe is. You know, he has a ton of followers, so you're probably going to follow him. And you're going to think, oh, that's Kobe.
Yeah.
And then he'll change. And you're like, wait, I thought that's not the same person. And it slowly morphs until you realize what's going on.
It's so good.
I got to pick 2 more.
2 more.
This question is from the Bender intern, and I'm not going to name them out of spite.
What do you mean name them?
Bender intern, they will
not.
I
thought you meant you found out who they were.
No, I wish. Okay. I did get one step closer. Someone told me, I told the story about going to someone and saying, oh, you know, your location was turned on. I know you're the intern. That person told me, said, oh, I've been talking to Bender's intern since I've been in crypto. And I said, oh, interesting. So I got one step closer.
Okay. So we are making progress though.
Yeah, this is month 12 now, officially month 12.
That's wild.
Making progress.
That's wild. Okay, you got one more.
Or I got 2 more.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah. No, Bender.
There's an account. This is a small account. I'm all about like random unknown accounts. Varez has the best memes I've ever seen. I am like dying laughing at them.
I've never heard of that. Okay.
They don't pop up often, but when they pop up, I'm just like, this is a high quality, great meme. I actually DM'd them 2 days ago and I was like, please don't ever stop making these memes.
I mean, yeah, like memes are what runs the world right now. So that's amazing. I'll have to add that to my list. I don't think I follow them.
And I'm trying to pick very obscure accounts that aren't just like the stereotypical ones you think I might pick. And for a third one, man. Honestly, right now, it's probably Nate Alex. Because he is just throwing hands every day. He's coming out, waking up and saying, you know what I'm doing today? I'm throwing more hands on Twitter. And if that isn't entertainment, I don't know what is right now.
He's taken the kind of NFT like influencer, quote unquote, space on full frontal because they came at him. So he's dishing it back and you just love to see it.
Oh, yeah. And I think what people don't realize is he's been around for a long ass time. So he, you know, this is not his first cycle. He knows what he's doing. And he's one of those people that if he sells the top, he gets hated for it. And if he buys the bottom and makes a ton of money, he also gets hated for it. If he loses a ton or makes a ton, he gets hated for it.
Yeah, it's a win-win, aka a lose-lose for him. So,
and 4th favorite Bender's intern, I got to figure out who this guy is. He keeps me up at night constantly.
I mean, it's going to happen eventually. Like we said, get him on the pod or something like that. Yeah. But
find out it's like my sister or something. Oh, man.
Oh my God. That'd be ridiculous.
All right. Next question. We've got bullish or bearish on Elon acquiring Twitter.
Now this one's going to be controversial.
Oh yeah.
I mean, everyone has a take on this, you know? And it's like, I feel like if it's not the way you think, you're immediately like, what? Like that's at least the vibe I've felt these past couple of days.
Yeah. I think anything involving Elon is usually controversial because people have stark opinions of him. Right.
I mean, shit. I'm bullish because I want to be bullish. And Twitter is like the one place where I'm usually the most active on any sort of social media out there. Don't really participate in the other stuff. So like, I want it to be bullish for Twitter because that's where I've kind of grown a following, if you even want to call it that.
Yeah.
Now, whether he pulls that off or not, I that's to be seen. But I don't know. It's like he would really have to fumble the bag to like screw Twitter up, which is definitely possible. And I'm not even talking about like the optics of the deal and like the money and all that stuff. I'm just strictly saying like from a fun aspect, he could probably make Twitter a ton of fun if he is to go crazy with it, but he could also screw it up.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as you.
So I'll remain bullish just because I like to be an optimist and I'm a perma bull.
I I'm somewhere in the middle between bullish and bearish. I think I'm
Mhm.
simply ambivalent. I don't know if he necessarily knows what he's doing, but I think he's going to try to do his best because it's in his best interest after being mostly finagled into actually going through with this purchase of Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's going to
I
be
can
fun to
choose to be
watch.
absolutely, and I can sit here and choose to be a hater about it, but where's the fun in that? I got to go from his perspective and say he's not spending 40 billion to lose it. He's got to be doing it to make more money, which means he's got to be trying his best. So I got to be bullish.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not even going to go into like what could come about with like, adding crypto in or something like that, but I'm bullish and it's going to be fun regardless. So let's just leave it at that. This next one is actually super interesting and I've never really thought about it, but if you had the power to revert one transaction on your wallet, would you do it? And I'm going to say add on there, what would it be if you can think of one?
Oh man. You know which one I'm thinking about?
Obviously.
Oh gosh, which one would I revert?
I don't know if I'd waste it on that though.
I wouldn't know. I make a lot of comments about FTM and joking about the Phantom ecosystem, and there's definitely one over there I would revert because I put a lot of time into that ecosystem and really trying to figure out what makes it tick. And I had in my head a 100x lined up, and I think I sold it at a 10x. So I was like, "There's no way this hits." And 5 months later, I'm pretty sure it hit like an 80x.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I exited a little too early there and counted my ducks before they were done hatching. I'd probably revert that one and try to hold it longer.
You know what's funny about this question is my head immediately goes to gains I could have had and revert that to hold longer for the gains in hopes that I would have timed the top and sell. And it doesn't go towards like saving my ass on shit that I bought that may have rugged or went to zero.
Yeah, you're right. That's incredibly accurate because I went the same direction.
So I was gonna say like I bought a ton of spell early, and then I remember I sold way too early, and it would have been something crazy. So I would revert that sell transaction. But then I'm like thinking, would I have even held all the way through if I was willing to sell that early? So probably not. It would be a waste because I'd sell maybe a couple days later during the pump. But interesting dynamic there that it's just it's not like, oh, I wouldn't invest in the Nubis DAO, aka the Sisyphus rug. It's not like, oh yeah, let me save, whatever I put in there immediately.
Right. We went the other direction of how could we have hit it big?
Yep. Which maybe that says something about us, but don't care.
No, it's a fun question too.
Yeah.
I can actually think of a bunch of these.
I mean, there's so many, right?
There are so many.
Think about it. It's when you're on this 24/7 and that's all you do, there's going to be so many transactions you would choose from, especially that change the course of your trajectory. If you say that.
Oh yeah. Oh, here's perfect one. Oh my gosh. Reddit a long time ago. This is probably before the last bull market. You could get tipped in Dogecoins and people would just hand out a ton of Dogecoins. It was a meme and it might have cost like a penny to do it. And I never claimed those coins. So they just got wiped away from somewhere. And if I had the power to go back and send a transaction to grab those, it might be a completely different story for my life right now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about. Yeah, this one you could go deep. That's a great question.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, we got a couple more here. So let's hit them out. If you were asked in 2016 where you see Ethereum as an ecosystem in 5 years, what would have been your response? Oh my God. I mean, in 2016, I kind of only thought about this as a payment rail.
Yeah.
I never really thought about it as like this whole, I mean, I knew about the computing layer and apps and stuff built on top of it, but that all didn't click with me in 2016.
No, I don't think it did for me either. I knew smart contracts were out, but I really didn't see their immense power yet.
Right. I started seeing it when I found out about Chainlink and how like the Oracle part of a smart contract is what made smart contracts make sense to me, where it's like, oh, that's the execution layer for this contract of how it remains trustless per se. But in 2016, I mean, I was just way too naive to actually have an informed opinion probably of where we'd be by now. For sure wouldn't be like trading art gobblers and squirting goo.
No. Oh God, no.
Or fucking Bored Ape Yacht Club and all that, and like going to Ape Fest and all this type of stuff. Like the things that have spun out of it, you wouldn't even be able to convince me, even if you told me what would happen back then.
No. I mean, CryptoPunks were 2017, and
Right.
I didn't believe them to be worth the gas money at the time.
I mean, yeah, you could claim them for free.
Yeah. So like anything I say here about the ecosystem now would be hypocritical. I think in 2016, all I thought of it was also, yes, as a payment rail and maybe something that could be integrated into ecosystems in the future, but those ecosystems all revolved around the financial world and not around anything else.
Because think about it, there weren't even on-chain stables back then.
No, nope. You had you had some coins, and you
weren't even really on-chain back then. You were like solely on centralized exchanges trading like the newest Bittrex coins.
Yeah, you were like Poloniex and stuff.
Right, right.
Which looked sketchy.
I mean, ICO boom hadn't even happened then. So like the thought of it becoming like this decentralized app store wasn't even in your brain yet. So yeah, it's, if you could see that in 2016, I'm sure you're literally chilling on a beach somewhere right now. So that must be nice.
Yeah, you're not asking the question and you're not listening to the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you tune in every now and then, but yeah. No, these are all great questions. So yeah, keep them coming. But we have, let's see, 3 more. Love to hear how you guys have your portfolios spread between NFTs, DeFi / crypto. You have any concrete strategy or just in degen mode most of the time? Interesting.
I'm in degen mode a lot of the time. I'm going to be honest.
I don't think I'm never, ever not in degen mode.
No.
So if there's something I want to ape and I don't have liquidity, I will legit toss my Bored Ape Yacht Club, my forever ape, quote unquote, into Ben DAO, borrow ETH against it and buy it. So
I can attest to that because there's always moments where you're like, I only have this amount and it's not going to change.
I mean, there was times where I thought about that for gobblers, right? And I was like, do I drum up some more liquidity somehow right now? And like, do you think about even going away from some of your longer term investments, thesis and to make it happen? And that's just always something you should probably try and avoid. But no, I say I'm mostly in degen mode with like long-term stacks that I think are long-term, but the space moves so fast that nothing can really be insanely long-term. It's probably besides ETH right now.
Yeah.
There's platforms that I love, right? Don't get me wrong. Like I've talked about them plenty, but one, they can get speculated on and go over their, probably inherent value of what they're worth now. And in which case you kind of got to abandon the long-term view. 2, I mean, a competitor spins up and they just get their lunch taken. 3, it's like ETH is probably going to be my base currency for a while because I want to stack a ton of it because of the new sort of dynamics it has. I just think it's going to be a crazy pump fest whenever it happens.
Yeah, I think that's wise. I think I'm in a similar boat too, where most everything I do is ETH centric right now. I've pulled out of a lot of other ecosystems. Most recently, I think I took everything off Solana and just put the rest of it back into Arbitrum stuff.
Yeah.
And just kind of looking to fund the same world you're talking about of the new dynamics of ETH and it being pseudo deflationary with gas fees going up. It just is too much of a bullish indicator for me long term to not be heavily in it. But there are some things I want to get deeper in. I had a pretty big Atom bag for a while, and I got rid of that when the bull started to end, and I'd like to get back into it and kind of get more exposure to that side of things. But in terms of, portfolio spread, I would say most of my crypto is ETH and stables right now, unless it's some like GMX stuff going on still.
Yeah. Definitely allocating hard to Arbitrum. And I think the main goal for me as far as NFT side of things go is just be better flipper this time around and just solely use NFTs as like a method to stack ETH.
A vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. And so when they're catching a heavy bid, I'm just going to focus on growing the ETH stack and knowing what I went into it with. Like say I go into it with 20, 25 ETH, whatever. And then coming out of that sort of season, whatever, NFT flip season, ahead of that and that being my goal.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just honing your tools and preparing for that, and then maybe deciding to stick to that. It can be, I mean, shit, I'm super susceptible to that like hodl camp. Like, oh my God, these things are gonna go crazy. But
Oh yeah.
I'm preparing myself to not get there again. Because I would have made so much more on the last NFT bull run.
I think the big thing is just understand that the portfolio is always changing. It's amorphous.
Yeah.
You know, one day I might be incredibly heavy in stables. Next day I might be 50-50 stables Ethereum, and then like 20 stables, 20 Ethereum, and like 60 NFTs. Because I'm just moving it around, trying to figure out what is the right catalyst, you know, what's coming up next.
Yeah.
It's all a game at the end of the day.
100%. 100%. And you got to kind of change up your view on things as the markets dictate, because the space moves so fast. And then like people often ask, well, you know, that falls into short-term cap gains. Then it's like, dude, you cannot be playing that game. I don't think in this space, it's just not wise.
No, not at all. But TLDR, degen mode, always degen mode.
Degen mode, always degen mode is right.
That still means like I'm in degen mode, but my main goal is just do not get liquidated, do not lose. Like I'm not looking for big 50x's, 100x's right now. I'm looking for, was it profitable? Let's get out, take away the risk. Exactly.
Right. In this market, right? You can feel it turn though. So when it does, rest assured, it's going to be degen mode the other way, full risk on, going crazy. But until then, preservation.
Oh, absolutely. We simply survive.
Yeah. Degen mode always though, whether bull or bear.
Okay. So next one we have compound or claim. And I am looking at those two buttons right now.
Are you on GMX right now?
I am on GMX right now.
Yeah. I mean, you always just wake up and hit compound. Let's be real.
Oh yeah. Big compound guy.
Huge compound guy. There's not much really more to say about it. Like, what are you going to claim?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I do claim the ETH, or I guess when you compound, your ETH just goes in your wallet. So then I use that to YOLO some longs or some shorts, but I generally end up losing it. So I've kind of tried to stop doing that.
I follow the method that worked for me long ago, which was you bet on your winners and you pull your losers.
Yep.
And compounding is simply that. If there's a moment when I can use that money for something else, I might claim it and move it around, but it's almost always into like you said, some like hyper G-gen thing that I'm just going to lose in the end.
Yeah.
Always compound.
Always compound, especially when it's the bear market. So I think it's just about building up big positions that you're confident in and compound away, my friends.
Oh yeah. That is a secret to how I survived the Phantom ecosystem. Was I just compounded everything. When things went bad, I was like, all right, I will compound my way out of this or it will go to zero.
Yep.
And over time, that compound worked out, luckily.
I know you like missed the rotation bid, right? And then you're like, ooh, should I try and get out now? But then you go chase the new hot thing and then you get dumped on in that. So it's better off to compound. And then hopefully that bid kind of rotates back. And that's when you're like, oh shit, I made the right move.
Right. There's enough catalyst there to say, okay, this ecosystem has popularity. It has some thrivingness to it. Let's stick around.
Yep. And it's important to note that like you took all those factors into account when you went on to holding that position, because, you know, don't want people thinking that you can't cut your losers, because you should, and you should cut them quick if you do have them.
Oh yeah. No, the reason I missed the Bored Ape mint is because I was so damn deep in Phantom. That mint link came across our table years ago, or a year and a half ago now, and I looked at it and was like, I'll look at this later, because I was so deep in Telegram of Phantom trying to orchestrate different things to say, how can I make back this money by seeing what other catalysts are happening? Because if you buy the top of something and that top goes down, everyone's going down with you. And you have two camps of people that are saying, I'm going to compound or I'm going to sell and get out. And the people that are compounding are also looking for the same plays you are to make that money back. So there's always options there, in my opinion.
Right.
Just don't fade Bored Apes because of it.
Yeah. Imagine if you go back to that mint. Sheesh.
Whew. Shout out to the producer. Producer called it right.
I know, right? The producer's always right.
Do you want to round us off with the final question here?
Let's do it. What sources do you use to get most of your alpha? How do you filter out and narrow down the info you have collected? And do you have a set routine or tool you use to check markets/data? Is it data or data?
It's data.
Okay, perfect.
In my head, at least.
Yeah, we can move on there.
Let's go one at a time there.
Yeah, three-prong question. So what sources do you use to get most of your alpha? Let's start there.
You want to go first? You want me to?
Kick it off.
Whew, okay. Twitter is a big part of it. I've cut Telegram out completely, mostly because it was just like a cesspool of memes and like debauchery and yelling at each other. So I go through Twitter. I look at Blur. I look at NFT nerds, and then I jump through probably 20 different Discords that range from small groups of people to an entire like NFT ecosystem that has like one alpha channel. And I'll just go through random alpha channels and just kind of pick up what is being talked about. And that's for NFTs.
Okay.
For DeFi, I was all in on Telegram, but with the current market, I'm not seeing the APYs and the APRs being profitable right now. So I've cut that out for the time being.
Okay. Yeah, I think the main thing there is like find a group that is reliable and go with that. Like I never had much luck on Telegram, but Discord has been the bread and butter, and it doesn't need to be these gated Discords. Like there are great DeFi platforms that usually have like a traders channel. And sometimes they'll talk about, if you get a good group in there, you can find plenty of alpha in those. And then you get to know those people, and maybe you guys start up your own Discord or something of that nature. So I've always been that route for at least DeFi. NFTs have been a little tougher for me to kind of like break into a squad that really knows what they're doing. I think I may have finally found one, but again, it's on Discord. So for me, Discord's been the bread and butter. And then Twitter, I've always felt like if the alpha's on the timeline, it's not alpha anymore.
Yeah, I'll agree.
For the most part. I mean, if it's a raging bull market, or you're talking about fundamentals of a project versus like, hey, buy this now, it's going up, instead of like, fundamentals to me is like, hey, here's why I think long term this is bullish, versus, hey, buy this ticker, it's the new meme coin or something like that. But yeah, I'm a big proponent of Discord, and then secondly, Twitter, if you're gonna like search cash tags and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, Twitter's a big one for me, which is funny that we're opposite there.
Well, because you go DMs, right?
I don't, not anymore. No, I used to get a lot of people in my DMs of anybody. I'm not talking just like, oh, this person has a big following, let me just slide you this coin. That never happens.
Yeah.
It's random people that are like, hey, check this out. I found it. It's kind of interesting. Let me know what your opinion is. And it might be some random protocol. It might be like an NFT collection of like baby pictures. It could be anything. But for me, for what I look at Twitter is, are the right people talking about something that hasn't really caught a bid yet?
Interesting. Okay, so in that case, you have a very curated feed.
Right.
Because otherwise, you're just sorting through a ton of noise.
And I make private lists all the time. And I'll go through those lists of people that like not really move markets, but could be an indicator of a market being moved.
Yep.
It's like Dingaling. When Dingaling sweeps an NFT collection, it's popping off.
Yep.
And so I just kind of look for those people and say, have they tweeted anything? Have they been posting art or hinting at something that they like that's coming up? Then I'll then kind of pay attention to and dive deeper into the weeds with.
No, that's good. Okay, so yeah, you're basically looking at like momentum on Twitter, but from the right people.
Right. The alpha isn't really on Twitter anymore. It's mostly momentum now.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
So we're in the same camp, where Discord in those small communities is where it really thrives.
Yeah, I agree, and it's all about finding the right crew.
Okay, so how do you filter out and narrow down the info? Good question.
That's tough because again, like you can't jump on every piece of alpha because one, capital isn't infinite, so you need to kind of find out what fits your risk reward profile, and then go from there. So, for example, like we talked about earlier, the gobblers. It's like, okay, cool. Knew about these guys. I was gonna watch the mint. Mainly because it's like, okay, Paradigm and, a lot of big players are hyped about this. And then I looked at the tokenomics. I'm like, oh yeah, shit, this has potential. But then watched the launch and it was like, okay, I'm probably not going to get in because it's not going to hit my price range. And so not overextending there is probably a smart play. But, filtering out and narrowing down, I think it's, again, just goes back to that risk profile and seeing what fits your investing style. And I'm not going to invest in stuff that I know nothing about. So that's another thing is like, if someone's talking about a space I'm not familiar with, I might go research it and try and get involved. But if I'm also not going to like go out of my way, dive in, and all of a sudden I'm holding this bag that I know nothing about.
Oh yeah. There's always another pitch coming your way to swing at.
Oh yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, that's like, that should be the motto of the podcast, to be honest.
Yeah. Next pitch. It's the best advice I've ever been given. I've never played baseball.
Yep.
But I love it is you miss the first pitch, there's a next pitch coming. And the normal response is, well, you strike out after 3 and it's okay. We don't strike out.
Yeah.
There's a next at bat.
Infinite at bats.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's spot on. You got to kind of figure it out. And let's say you do find that ecosystem. Are you okay missing the first thing in lieu of research and looking for the next one in that area?
That's a great question. I'm usually an ape first, ask questions later, but that's because I probably know something about it to start with. So it contradicts the whole thing, but that's also like, I probably know something if I'm just going to toss cash at it, because there's too many times where you hear about something that's has big potential in an area you know stuff about, and you're just like, ooh, I got to dive in deeper. But if you trust your contacts, it sometimes pays to ape early, especially if it's like up only season.
Oh yeah. Up only season, everything changes.
It does.
For right now, I think I'm a lot more risk adverse and I filter out a lot of noise. Even to the point where I will watch a coin do a 3x and say, there's no way it has legs still.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll watch it crash and say, oh, I was right. Or I'll watch it do another 3x and be like, oh, I was wrong. And I'm okay with that.
Right.
I'm just way more risk adverse right now. So I filter out a lot.
It's kind of like a switch, right? It's like once you feel that tide shifting, you switch back into that other mode.
So do you have a set routine or a tool you use to check markets and data?
Well, right now, I mean, I know we talked about it a ton, but Blur is just where I'm living for NFTs. It's easy to watch and you kind of see momentum on certain collections, and you can see all the floor prices and everything like that. So it's a great site to use for a ton of data. As far as everything else, I mean, kind of just use Twitter. If the whole timeline is up in arms, I'm like, okay, number go down.
Absolutely.
And I mean, if everyone's being euphoric, it's like, oh, okay, number go up.
For me, it's exactly Twitter.
Yep.
It's just too easy. You wake up in the morning, you grab your phone, hit your alarm clock, whatever it may be, and Twitter's right there on your phone. You can just scroll it real quick, and it's very obvious that something big is going on.
I mean, it's like the first 8 tweets. Right?
Oh yeah.
Even if it was a couple hours prior to you checking.
Yeah, it's the one-stop shop for everything.
Agreed. So yeah, I mean, I don't think you really need much more of a tool than that. The more details is like Blur and getting into Discord and looking at Dune and Nansen and all those tools, but that's a little more in the weeds.
Which maybe that's where the question's leading. So I'll jump in those weeds. Blur, NFT nerds. I'm looking at Blur for floor prices, daily changes, daily volume, 15-minute volume, owner counts, all like the general metrics that might just tell you about momentum or like how many legs something may have. NFT nerds, what I look at for like trending of what's minting now, what's getting purchased head over heels right now. And NFT nerds has a charting system for each individual purchase, which kind of tries to chart the idea of NFTs are just really small supply shitcoins.
Right.
So I look at those charts a lot and try to say, hey, are we clouding? Are we spiking? Are we crashing somewhere? And that's kind of how I make my decisions on whether I'm buying an NFT or I'm getting out of it or what I'm doing there.
Yeah, smart.
But then I don't look at Nansen anymore. I think if Blur could incorporate a lot of those alerts, I'd probably be a one-stop shop there.
Yep.
But then for general coins, yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm checking charts from like CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko. Honestly, whichever one pops up first when I Google like Ethereum price. Like, there's no really rhyme or reason with that one.
I feel like a lot of Discords these days too have like price bots. So I'm not even having to go to all these like CoinGeckos and all that stuff. That's nice.
Yeah, what I really look for with the tool is, can you alert me for what's coming next? It's easy to find information, whether it's a coin price, a floor price, or a volume, but it's really hard to find somewhere that tells you what's coming up.
Right.
And that's what I'm always searching for. And I'm looking at tooling is, can you help me with that?
Mm-hmm.
But set routine. Do you have a set routine? I do not.
I mean, I guess aside from just like hopping in first thing in the morning, probably not. It's not like, wake up, compound the GMX farm, compound a couple other Arbitrum coins, and then dive in. But besides that, nothing's really set. I'm always looking for like the next play. And I think that is what takes up most of the time. It's like, there's not always a play. In fact, there's not like, it's a minority of days that there's something to actually like action on, but soaking up the knowledge of what's coming is where the time and effort goes to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably the same for me.
Yeah.
The only thing, I would have a set routine if I could fix my sleep schedule. That's all it would take.
Yeah.
That's indicative of how poor my routine is. The glory, I think, of being an engineer is that we've always kind of been catered to by companies. So if you roll in at 10:30 when work starts at 8, it's kind of like, we need you. And, you always deliver your stuff and you're here at 10:30, but you're also here at 8 p.m. That really took a toll on me, and it's kind of bled over to, like I told Ethersole this last night. I went to bed at 9 p.m., woke up at 2 a.m., couldn't sleep until like 4:30.
Yeah.
And then slept until 9, and then took a nap at
that's so
11
wild.
until 2. And so no routine. It's just get online, be present, be in the moment, and figure out what's coming next whenever I have the time to do it.
Yep. And if you need to remind yourself of when to take a break, we have an episode on that. I think it was like number 12 or something, right?
Yeah. Burnout hits everybody. You got to be mindful.
That's what it is. Yeah. Yeah. You can get sucked in way too much. So, but damn, what a like lineup of Twitter topics that was. I mean, we didn't really have one that was not crypto related.
No, they're all kind of, we're more interested in how do you operate in this crypto ecosystem, and not so much like how do you build a sandwich in your kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. Like I wouldn't mind those questions, but no, that was great. Like we said, like keep those coming. This is like kind of the interactive part of it where, we literally, I think, answered every single question people asked. So,
oh yeah,
that's about 100% hit rate if you're, out there counting.
Which better than I do in coins. Let me be honest.
Oh my God. Much better. Much better. Honestly, bullish on trending down for that matter.
Here we go. Trending up.
Trending up is right. Win rebrand. Shit. Another solid episode. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Did you have any final thoughts? Or we going to cruise it out on this?
I think we're going to shut it down here and say thanks for coming along.
Perfect. I'm on board with that. Yeah, again, check out the YouTube, like, subscribe, get the algos pumping. Let's blow this thing up, create a whole community, and yeah, really, really just take on the next bull run by storm. Yeah, that's it for us. So we're going to sign out.
Thanks for coming along.
Peace.